The sun bore down on Tall Pines, Georgia, that Sunday afternoon, a relentless weight that turned the asphalt of the Jefferson Market parking lot into a shimmering mirage. Renata Colvin, 44, pushed her grocery cart across the uneven pavement, one hand steadying a bag of flour that threatened to tip, the other clutching her key fob. Her silver SUV sat unassumingly in the lot, its faded bumper sticker proclaiming, "Feed people, not your ego." She moved with purpose, her cargo pants and soft grey tee a departure from the scrubs that usually clung to her frame, faintly scented with antiseptic and lavender lotion. Renata was a nurse at Oakview Regional, her shift starting at 6 a.m. the next day, and she had no time for distractions. Her cart was filled with supplies for her church's meal program: canned corn, bulk pasta, peanut butter, and a few apples that she hoped wouldn't spoil in the heat. The market was crowded, the lines sluggish, and Renata had felt the press of eyes as she navigated the aisles. She didn't linger. She never did. Folks in Tall Pines didn't often notice Renata unless they needed her. Her calm demeanor and silver-streaked coiled hair made her blend into the background. But when they did notice her, it was because she'd fixed something, a patient's chart, a neighbor's worry, or a meal for someone who hadn't eaten in days. She was the kind of woman who spoke only when her words carried weight. And today, all she wanted was to load her groceries and get home. As she popped the trunk of her SUV, a low rumble interrupted her rhythm, not her engine, but the bass line of a truck pulling into the lot 2 spaces over. A rust-colored Dodge Ram parked crookedly, its tires eating up the lines as if the driver didn't care who he inconvenienced. The driver's door flew open before the truck fully stopped, and 3 men spilled out, their laughter loud and jagged, reeking of stale beer and barbecue smoke. Renata glanced at them once, her eyes sharp but uninterested, and continued loading her bags. She didn't have time for mess. The leader, stocky with a sunburned face and a chewed toothpick bouncing between his lips, was Colby Renshaw. "Well, look at that," he said, his voice carrying just enough to make it clear he wanted her attention. "Didn't know they let your kind shop on the rich side of town." Renata paused, not out of fear, but to assess. Her eyes met his briefly before she bent to retrieve a bag of onions that had tipped in her cart. She gave no reaction, no smile, no words, just the steady motion of someone who'd heard this kind of noise before. Colby didn't like being ignored. "Oh, she got nothing to say?" he called louder, stepping closer. "You too good to speak to me?" The second man, Trent Blevins, tall and wiry, leaned against the truck's passenger side, lighting a cigarette and exhaling without looking her way. The third, Deacon Stills, scrolled through his phone, his boredom masking a flicker of unease. Renata kept packing, her movements deliberate, but her heartbeat sharp and steady, a rhythm she'd learned to control long ago. Then came the crack. A carton of eggs hit the pavement beside her feet, shells splintering, yolks sizzling on the hot asphalt. Trent grinned, having flicked the carton from her cart with a casual twist of his wrist. "Oops," he said, his voice dripping with mock surprise. "Guess they slipped." Renata stood straight, her silence louder than their laughter. The parking lot felt vast and empty despite the scattered cars. A mother buckling her toddler 3 rows over, a teenage bag boy glancing up from the cart return. No one moved. She looked at Trent, then Colby, and said evenly, "You boys finished?" Colby stepped forward, arms spread like he was auditioning for a comedy. "Oh, come on now. No harm done. Just saying hello." Renata's voice cut through, cold and clear. "I don't need your hello. Now move along." The air shifted, the humor draining from their faces. The line between provocation and something darker had been crossed. Deacon, still by the truck, pocketed his phone and started walking toward her, his steps lazy but deliberate. He wasn't built for conflict, not the kind that didn't end with a punchline or a thrown bottle, but he couldn't look soft in front of his friends. Renata watched him approach, her stance unchanged, keys looped through her fingers like an afterthought. She'd stood in emergency rooms when patients flatlined, her calm a shield against chaos. Deacon didn't recognize that stillness. He thought it meant fear. Colby barked a laugh. "Don't let her scare you, Dee, just a church lady with a sharp tongue." Renata shifted her weight, taking a half step back, not retreating, but creating space. Her eyes flicked between them, Deacon's twitching hands, Trent's cigarette, Colby's crossed arms. "Look," she said, her voice steady as stone. "You all got whatever attention you needed. I don't have anything else for you, so unless you want to explain this mess to the cops, you need to go." Trent crushed his cigarette under his boot, muttering, "Man, she talked like she's somebody." Colby smirked, stepping toward her SUV. "Bet you got a nice little Bible in there, huh? You one of them praying types?" Renata didn't answer. She reached forward and closed her trunk, the click of the latch breaking the tension like a snapped twig. Deacon saw it as an opening. He reached out, his hand casual toward her wrist, not aggressive, but presumptuous, as if he could make her stop and listen. That was his mistake. Time seemed to snap into place. Renata pivoted on her heel, twisting under his arm with a motion so clean it looked rehearsed. Years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu boiled down to 3 seconds. She dropped her center of gravity, swept his legs, and Deacon hit the pavement with a thud. Air knocked out of him. His arm was trapped in her grip, bent just enough to warn, not break. Colby and Trent froze, their bravado blinking out like a bad bulb. Renata let Deacon go, and he scrambled back, eyes wide, dragging himself away like a man who'd misread the board in a dangerous game. "Get away from my car," she said, her voice louder now, echoing off the grocery store's brick wall. A couple at the far end of the lot stopped loading their truck. The bag boy stepped closer, phone in hand. Trent's face reddened, not from the sun, but from shame. "She just threw him like nothing," he muttered. Colby clenched his jaw. "She's bluffing." Trent snapped. "You think that looked like bluffing?" Colby stepped toward her again, slower, his voice tight. "Lady, I don't know what kind of karate movie you think you're in." Trent cut in. "She dropped him in 2 seconds, man. Let's just bounce." But Colby ignored him, his eyes locked anew. Locked on Renata. She stood still, hands relaxed, waiting. Trent spit on the pavement, stepping closer. "You think you're tough?" Renata tilted her head. "You call that a fight?" Trent's ears burned red. "Don't get cute with me." "I'm not trying to be cute," she said. "I'm trying to leave." She turned to open her driver's side door. That's when Trent swung, not a punch, but a shove, his hand coming too close to her face. Renata moved instantly, grabbing his wrist, twisting it outward, and stepping inside his reach. Her forearm hit his chest, knocking him back, followed by a sharp knee to his ribs. He doubled over, gasping. Her elbow landed on his jaw, sending him crashing against the Dodge Ram's tailgate with a clang. Phones were out now, bystanders recording. A woman near the store entrance called someone. Security, police, it didn't matter. Deacon, still on the ground, clutched his shoulder, dazed. Colby's confidence drained, his step faltering. Renata stood her ground, chest rising steadily, not from exertion but from the weight of the moment. "You still feel like talking?" she asked Colby. His eyes flicked to his friends, then back to her. He raised his hands, not in surrender but retreat. "Man, screw this, let's go." Trent groaned, clutching his ribs. "She broke something, I swear." Colby yanked open the truck door. "You shouldn't have touched her." They argued as they helped each other up, avoiding Renata's gaze. The truck peeled out slower this time, leaving the lot in silence. A woman approached Renata cautiously. "Ma'am, you okay?" Renata nodded. "Yes, ma'am, thank you." Another voice chimed in. "That was incredible. Are you trained?" Renata gave a small smile. "A little." The woman laughed. "A little? Honey, you flipped that man like a sack of dog food." Renata picked up the shattered egg carton, salvaging what she could. The assistant manager rushed out, walkie-talkie in hand. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Are you hurt?" "No," she said, "but I think your cameras saw the rest." Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm gonna head home now. Do you want me to call the police? They're probably already on the way. Renata sat in her SUV, doors locked, engine off, gripping the steering wheel. Not in panic or shock, but in the stillness of someone who'd faced this kind of moment before. 12 years ago in South Macon, a man had grabbed her in a dark parking lot after a long shift. She'd fought back with panic and instinct, but it wasn't enough. He took her purse, her phone, her mother's ring. The next day, she signed up for jiu-jitsu, training under Lena Hargrove, an ex-Marine who saw her discipline and pushed her to hone it. That promise, to never let anyone control her body again, had held her steady today. Blue lights flashed behind her. 2 deputies approached, one with a notepad, the other speaking into a radio. "Afternoon, ma'am. You all right?" "I am. If the disturbance was me defending myself from 3 grown men harassing me and grabbing my wrist, then yes." The deputy, surprised but not offended, scribbled in his pad. An older man in a fishing hat stepped forward. "I got everything, officer. She didn't start nothing. Clear as day." The deputy watched the video, his brow furrowing as Deacon went down, then Trent. "You have any training, ma'am?" "Brazilian jiu-jitsu, 10 years. He nodded. "That checks out." The second deputy confirmed the store's footage matched the story. "You want to press charges?" "No. You're free to go." "I was never detained," she said, meeting his eyes. He gave a half smile. "Fair enough." Renata drove home, the groceries still in the back, the weight of the day settling into her bones. She didn't know it yet, but the moment she thought was over was just beginning to ripple. Renata's small house on the edge of tall pines was a haven of quiet, the kind of place where the tick of a wall clock could feel like a conversation. She dropped her keys into the bowl by the door, kicked off her sneakers, and washed her hands twice, scrubbing the parking lot dust from under her nails. The groceries sat on the counter, the apples already softening in the heat. She poured a glass of water, leaned against the sink, and finally checked her phone. 23 missed texts, 4 voicemails, 6 notifications from a local Facebook group she didn't recall joining. Her cousin Geneva's voicemail was frantic. "Girl, you're trending. Call me." Her neighbor Dennis, who borrowed her hedge trimmer too often, sounded worried. "Saw something online. You all right? Text me." A friend from church sent a grainy video, no caption. Renata tapped play. The clip started mid-action, Deacon reaching, her reacting, his body hitting the pavement. Then Trent's lunge, her knee to his ribs, elbow to his jaw. The crowd's gasps were louder than the hits. She watched it again, feeling detached, like it was someone else, someone sharper, more final. The comments hit harder. "Don't mess with a church lady. She's got UFC form," but not all were kind. "Bet she started it. Should have kept walking. Escalated on purpose." She put the phone down. Cruelty didn't surprise her. She'd seen it in hospital waiting rooms, heard it in whispered slurs. Her arms ached now, the adrenaline's afterburn setting in. Another video popped up, clearer, shot by the man in the fishing hat. Her voice cut through. "You still feel like talking? Now, move along." The sweep, the takedown, the crowd's reaction. It was all there. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of knowing this moment was no longer hers. It was the internet's now. A call from Janice Doyle, her old jiu-jitsu training partner, broke her thoughts. "That was you, wasn't it?" Janice asked. "Yeah. They're calling it parking lot justice at the precinct. You okay?" "I'm fine. Look, I know you hate attention, but this is out there. Media might come sniffing. Keep your phone off if it gets loud." "Thanks." Renata hung up and sat on her couch, the beige cushions worn but familiar. Her home was unchanged, but she felt a shift inside herself. The world had seen her now, and it wouldn't let go easily. By Monday morning, her name was everywhere. Group chats she'd never joined buzzed with her story. Clips of the incident, cut to 15-second bursts with dramatic music, flooded social media. A Tall Pines news site posted a poorly written article, "Grocery store confrontation goes viral. Woman handles 3 aggressors solo." getting her age wrong but spreading like wildfire. A radio host called her a lesson in don't mess with me energy. Her inbox overflowed with requests from brands, blogs, influencers, even an Atlanta podcast wanting to amplify her story. A morning talk show offered money for an exclusive. She deleted most without reading. At Oakview Regional, she slipped into her routine, scrubs pressed, thermos in hand. Her co-worker Dahlia grinned. "Miss Colvin, we need to talk about your secret double life." "What life?" "You flipping men in parking lots like a Marvel movie." "I flipped one," Renata said. "Internet says 3. Internet rounds up." They laughed, but Renata felt the distance. Her colleagues' admiration carried a tinge of awe, making her feel like a stranger in her own workplace. She focused on her patience, catching a subtle shift in a man's breathing, correcting a chart error. That was her space, where strength wasn't a spectacle, but a quiet act of care. At lunch, under the elm tree behind the staff lot, her phone rang. Colby Renshaw's voice was unsteady. "Renata, it's Colby. How'd you get this number?" "Small town. Look, I want to talk." "You should have talked before you harassed a woman in a parking lot." "You're right. I was stupid. We were. But the internet's made it worse. My boss saw it. I might lose my job. My mom's crying." "You want sympathy?" "No, I'm sorry for running my mouth, for not stopping Trent, for egging it on. And for letting your friend grab me." Silence. "I didn't know he was gonna—" "But you didn't stop him." "No, I didn't." "I appreciate the apology," she said. "But this isn't about jobs or moms. It's about what people like you think you're allowed to do until someone makes you stop." "I'm starting to get that." "Good." She hung up, letting the sun warm her face. The ordinary sounds, birds, cars, a distant lawnmower, grounded her. But another call came, this time from Pastor Ansel. "Need to talk. Can you swing by?" At Shiloh Baptist Church, Pastor Ansel waited in his cluttered office, a steaming mug in hand. "I saw the video," he said. "I'm proud of you and concerned." "Because I fought back?" "No, because you're being made into something you didn't ask to be." He slid a folder across the desk, filled with screenshots of social media comments. Some were uplifting, but most were vicious. She attacked first. Aggressive gesture. She had a weapon. Lies. All of them. "You brought me here to show me hate mail." "No, so you wouldn't be blindsided. People are building their own version of you." "Of course they are. People fear what they can't control. A black woman who stood up, didn't cry, didn't run. You stayed whole. That shakes them." "So what should I do, hide?" "No, but you might want to think about speaking up. You've got a platform now." "I didn't ask for one." "I know, but you've got it." That night, Renata cooked. Steamed vegetables, brown rice, baked chicken. She ate slowly, the TV off, phone silent. The sun sank through the blinds, casting stripes across the tile. She scrolled again. A new video from the store's security camera showed everything clearly. Deacon's reach, her takedown, Trent's fall, Colby's retreat. Her face, zoomed in, was calm, ready. The clip had 2.7 million views. Comments split between praise and vitriol. A DM from Red Dog 223 read, "You think you're tough? You're just lucky. Bet you'd be quiet without a camera." She didn't respond. She'd seen that tone before, in ERs, courtrooms, from patients she'd saved. Some people saw a strong woman and needed to break her because they couldn't build themselves. Another text from Janice. "They're running your story on WSB-TV tonight." Renata turned on the TV. The anchor's voice was crisp. "A confrontation in Tall Pines has gone viral, drawing praise and criticism. Renata Colvin, a nurse and church volunteer, was filmed defending herself against 3 men. Clips played, her stance analyzed like a sports replay. A guest debated her use of force, questioning if it was self-defense or a display of power. The man in the fishing hat appeared. She didn't start nothing. They came at her. She saved herself. She clicked off the TV, arms crossed, watching strangers dissect her life. The moment was hers no more. Tuesday morning was quiet, the sunlight soft on Renata's hardwood floor. She sat at her kitchen table, sipping coffee, the silence a brief reprieve. Her phone vibrated relentlessly. National networks had picked up the story. Headlines screamed, "Who is Renata Colvin? Nurse turned viral sensation. Strong or dangerous? America debates, parking lot, showdown." Comments ranged from symbol of quiet strength to angry black woman weaponizing sympathy. Same script, louder stage. A message from May Sheridan, a teacher in Bozeman, Montana, stood out. "Thank you. Your video sparked a conversation with my students about standing up without losing yourself. You made them rethink strength." Renata replied, "Tell your class they made me smile today." She tossed out the spoiled apples and carrots from her grocery haul, the act feeling like shedding a small weight. That afternoon, she went to the rec center, planning to check inventory for the self-defense class she sometimes helped with. But over 40 women waited in the multi-purpose room. Nurses, clerks, students, a retired firefighter, even the post office lady. They stood quietly, watching her with reverence. "Y'all here for Lena's class?" Renata asked. A woman stepped forward. "We heard what happened. We want to learn from you." "I'm not a sensei. You don't have to be." Renata looked at the worn mats, the air heavy with sweat and lemon cleaner. She remembered her first class here, scared and ashamed. Not anymore. "All right," she said, tying her braids back. "We start with balance. You don't need muscle. You need control. Mind, then body." She demonstrated, her voice steady. "First rule, if someone grabs you, your weapon isn't your fists, it's your breath. Control your panic, or they control you." The women listened, some recording, others mimicking her steps. For the first time since the parking lot, Renata felt like herself. That night, she cooked stewed cabbage, turkey sausage, and sweet potatoes, eating slowly, savoring the quiet. She wrote in her notebook, "I didn't want to be known. I just wanted to be left alone." She underlined it twice. The men's stories lingered in her mind, unvoiced but present. Colby, raised by a violent father, learned to bark to be heard. Trent, a high school dropout caring for his sick mother, let anger outrun vulnerability. Deacon, haunted by a false accusation, followed the loudest voice to stay safe. They weren't villains by design. They slipped into it, underestimating the wrong woman. Their silence after the incident spoke volumes. Trent lost his job at the garage, Colby faced dismissal from the hardware store, and Deacon left town. The shame wasn't from the bruises, but from seeing their own cruelty in the playback. The grocery store posted a sign, "Security cameras in use, zero tolerance for harassment." The Tall Pines Ledger ran an editorial, "When calm meets cruelty and dignity refuses to bend, we remember what strength looks like." Renata clipped it for her fridge. Sunday, she stood at Shiloh Baptist Church's podium, the room packed. "Some of you know me," she said. "Some think you do." A chuckle rippled through. "I'm not here for attention. I'm here because this week showed me something about strength. People think it's loud, that it yells or hits first, but strength can be saying no, or leave me alone, or staying silent when they want a reaction." She looked at a young girl in the front row. "To the young ones, don't let the world convince you loud is the only way to be powerful. Protect your peace, walk away when you can, but if you're cornered, don't shrink." She stepped from the podium, mic unneeded. "You don't have to be hard to be safe. Be clear, be steady, know your worth." A woman from her class stood, clapping slowly. Others joined, not in performance but in recognition of truth. People lined up to speak with her, some shaking her hand, others hugging, some just smiling. Renata stayed until the last person left. That night, on her porch, mug in hand, phone face down, the world felt quiet. Not because the noise stopped, but because she chose when to let it in. The internet would move on, but Renata's name meant something now, not for going viral, but for standing firm, staying whole, reminding people that silence isn't weakness and kindness isn't surrender. If you liked this story, please like, subscribe, and share it with others so they can learn something from it too.